Legend of Heroes was published by TSR in 1987. The aim of the game is to explore all the rooms and to find the most treasure. In the basic and solo games, you play a single fighter. But in the expanded game, players have a whole party of adventurers. In the standard solo game, your single fighter has 8 hit points, so they can be wounded 8 times, and then they have to retreat from the dungeon exhausted and count up your treasure at that point. But I've made a few changes to the solo game to make it a bit more challenging. First of all, I'm using a whole party of adventurers, one from each class: fighter, cleric, magic user, dwarf and rogue. And the next change I've made is that whenever my party travels down a passageway from one red square to another, which represents a door to a room, I roll a die, a d6, to see if there are any wandering monsters. So on a 6, they will face a wandering monster. And it's a 5, so they don't. The most interesting thing about Legend of Heroes is how the encounters work. Because when you enter a room, you take and read the room card. In this case, inky blackness. Beyond the door is nothing but darkness, a darkness so heavy that it seems to swallow up your torchlight. Then a blinding flash of pure white light reveals a... And then the card directs you to take another card, this time from the feature deck. A sarcophagus, gaudily painted with the picture of some ancient king. Eagerly you grasp the lid and lift it open, but before you can look inside, and then you're directed to take a hazard card. Now this is the point where your party order is important, because it will be your party leader who will encounter the hazard or the monster. And once you know which type of card is coming up, hazard or monster, you can then choose to switch your party leader, although you won't know what the card actually is. So with a hazard coming up, it's always best to have the rogue as the party leader, because they are better at dealing with hazards. This hazard is a poison dart. A poison dart flies out at you from a hidden tube. So whenever you encounter a hazard or a monster, you place the card next to your party leader. And that will show you where the red dot lines up, what number you have to roll to overcome the hazard or the monster. So in this case, Milo needs an 8 or more. And you roll a d20. And he's rolled exactly an 8. And the card says, after you have overcome the dangers of the poison dart trap, you continue your search and find A, and then it directs you to take a treasure card. Which is a golden candlestick, which is worth 400 gold pieces. Smiling, you pick it up and walk out of the room. So you take your treasure, and then you can leave the room. The goal I set for my solo games is to find 3 treasures which are worth 500 gold pieces, and then 2 other treasures which are worth 400 gold pieces. So now my party are going to travel to the next room and roll to see if there are any wandering monsters. 4, so that's okay. And then they draw this room card. Ancient Crypt. Judging by the dust on the floor, it seems that nobody has been here for years. Warily you search through the scattered bones and find A, coral brooch with a gold pin. Its value is 400 gold pieces. Quickly you put it on and leave. End of room. So there was no monster and no hazard in that room. So the party moves to the next room and rolls for wandering monsters. A 3. This is a dark shrine. Nervously approaching this mysterious shrine, you feel a sudden tingle of fear. Who knows what lurks within? Cautiously you peer inside, but you can see only a glint of gold. caught by your torchlight. Eagerly you pick it up, but find it is only an old broken dagger. Disappointed, you choose one of the exits and leave the room. So unfortunately there was nothing useful in that room. So the party travels to the next room, along the passageway, checking for wandering monsters. And it's a 5, so they don't find any. And this room is a crystal cave. Your torchlight reflects like stars from the thousands of crystals lining the walls of this cave, but you have only seconds to look at them before you see a... Now this directs me to take a monster card, so I need to decide who I want to face the monster. So a sensible bet will either be my fighter or my dwarf, but then if the monster turns out to be undead, then I perhaps want my cleric on the front, but I'll choose my fighter. I'll see what turns up. It's a minotaur, lowering its head and charging. So, just as the thief did with the hazard, you match the cards up, and the red dot tells you the number you need to roll or above on a d20 to defeat the monster. So in this case, Brandon needs a 12 or more. And he gets exactly 12. So the Minotaur is defeated. Once it is defeated, you find that it was guarding a gold chain, long enough to be a necklace. Its value is 300 gold pieces. You find nothing else and leave the room. So now the party moves along another passageway to the next room, checking for wandering monsters. 2, no. This room is the Great Hall. Long ago this must have been a grand feasting hall. Now its ornate wall hangings are rotted, its dark oak furniture smashed, and the only thing left of any interest is a... It directs me to take a feature card. A secret compartment, which opens unexpectedly. Perhaps you touched a hidden catch by accident. You look inside but find that your look has changed as a... And now the card directs me to take a hazard. So I'm going to put my rogue as the party leader, and we'll see what the hazard is. A choking cloud. So matching that up with the rogue, we need to roll an 8 or higher on a d20 to overcome the hazard. And it's a 12. When you have cleared the cloud, you carry on looking and find a treasure. So we take a treasure card. A golden torque, a kind of armband which is worth 400 gold pieces. You pick it up and leave the room. If when you're fighting a monster you fail to make your target number or higher, then the monster gets a chance to attack you. And so the monster lines up their card, and the red spot indicates what number they need to roll to hit the player. Now if the monster is successful, you turn your card over to wounded. And the only way you can be healed of a wound is by the cleric missing a turn so they can heal other party members, or by travelling to the magical well. Now in the game I play, I rule that the cleric can't heal other characters, so that whenever anybody's wounded they have to go to the magical well in order to be made well again. So if the hero loses a round of combat to a monster and becomes wounded, you then have the chance to change your party leader for the next round of fighting against the monster. And if a wounded character is wounded again, then that character dies. So the party will now travel down this passageway to this room, checking for wandering monsters on the way. And that's a 1. This room is the forge, Looking into this room, you see an anvil, bellows, and other smith's tools. You begin to look around for the smith, but then a sudden sound makes you turn in time to see a monster, a skeleton, moving towards you menacingly. Brand is my party leader currently, so he has to roll a 10 or more. And that's a 4. So this time, the skeleton gets to retaliate. Now the skeleton must roll a 14 or more. And rolls a 16. So Brand is wounded. Now I get the chance to change my party leader. So I'm going to put the cleric as my party leader because clerics have a better chance against undead monsters. So on this round of combat, the cleric has to roll a 9 or more. He rolls a 6. So the skeleton rolls a 15 or more to hit. And that's a 1, so that's lucky. So I will stick with Hodge fighting the skeleton, needing to roll a 9. That's a 6. So it's the skeleton's turn again. And rolls a 3. So Hodge attacks again. A 4. This is going really badly. The skeleton rolls. And rolls a 15, so Hodge is wounded now. So in order to protect him, I'm going to try the dwarf, I think, because if Nimbus uses his spell, it won't affect the skeleton. So I'll put the dwarf in front, and he has to roll an 11 or more. A 1. So the skeleton has to roll a 13 or more. And rolls a 9. So Sigurd attacks again, trying to roll 11 or more. And rolls a 12, thankfully. So the skeleton is defeated. When you have defeated it, you search through its bones and find a crystal mirror in a silver frame worth 300 gold pieces. It's small enough to take with you as you leave. So I take my 5th treasure. Now one of the optional rules in the game is the heavy treasure rule, so that your party can only carry 1 treasure each. So basically 5 treasures. So now I have 2 wounded party members. So my next move will be out of this room and around this passageway to the magical well. But I still have to roll in my version for wandering monsters. And that's a 5, so they don't find any. So now on this turn, my wounded characters are all healed because I've been to the magical well. And I'll take this passage to the next room and roll for wandering monsters. And it's a 2, so they don't find any. And this room contains silent statues. Peering cautiously into this room, you are relieved to see only a row of statues, but as you approach the largest one, its eyes suddenly light up and I have to choose a hazard card now. So I have the opportunity to change my party leader before I draw the card. So I will choose my rogue. Lightning bolt zaps towards you. So Milo has to roll a 9. He rolls a 14. After you have disarmed the lightning bolt trap, you discover a treasure. Now this is one of the 500 gold pieces worth treasure cards. There are 3 of these in the game, and my goal, as I mentioned, is to find all 3 and then 2 other 400 gold piece treasure cards. diamond coronet, glittering in your torchlight. It is worth 500 gold pieces. Feeling very happy, you leave. Now I have 5 treasures already, so I have to get rid of one of them. Now I've got 4 actually, 400 gold piece treasures and 2 300 gold piece ones. So I'll drop one of the 300s and keep the 500. Now I'll just drop it back in that room where I left it. The party will now take the passage down here to this room, checking for wandering monsters. And that's a 4, so no. This room contains an ice cave. Ice covers every wall of this frosty cavern. Huge icicles hang down from the roof, and your breath forms into white clouds. Suddenly one of the icicles is shattered by a monster. So, at this point, I have the opportunity to change my party leader. So I'll change Milo for Brand. And I find a Medusa whose gaze turns people to stone. So I match the Medusa with Brand. He has to roll an 11 or more. And he rolls an 11. Avoiding her deadly gaze, you defeat the Medusa and find an ivory comb in a silk pouch. It is worth 200 gold pieces. You pick it up and leave. Well, I'm going to leave that there. The party then moves down this passage to this room. And I roll a 6 on my wandering monster roll. So before I manage to get to that room and encounter it, I have to choose a wandering monster. I'm going to leave Brand as my party leader for the moment. And I come across a Cyclops. Now when I fight wandering monsters, I do the fights as normal, but at the end I don't go in to choose the next card because I just rule that the monsters wouldn't be carrying treasure around with them when they're walking about. So Brand has to roll a 12 or more to defeat the Cyclops. He rolls a 10. The Cyclops has to roll a 12 or more. He rolls a 13, so Brand is injured. Now at this point I have the opportunity to change my party leader, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to change for Sigurd, because the dwarves seem to be good at fighting particular monsters. Now he has to roll an 11 or more to hit the Cyclops. He rolls a 16, so the Cyclops is defeated, but I ignore this text about treasure or any further cards because it's just a wandering monster. So now the characters can encounter this room. A swirling mist. You find a chamber filled with a blue swirling mist. At first you can make out no details at all, but then a menacing dark shape looms towards you and forms into... I have to choose a monster card, and I will stick with Sigurd as my party leader before I draw the monster. And I draw a ghost, wailing as it floats towards you. Perhaps my cleric will be better at fighting this, but Sigurd will have to roll a 12 or more. And he rolls a 4, so the ghost attacks and has to roll a 13. And rolls a 12. Now I have the opportunity to change my party leader, which I'm going to do. I'm going to change for Hodge the cleric. Has to roll a 10 or more to defeat the ghost. He rolls a 16. Overcoming your fear, you defeat the creature and find a silver platter, which is worth 300 gold pieces. Looking up from your find, you notice a feature. Dusty chest. Reinforced with stout bands of iron. You try to lift the lid, but it is locked, and you cannot find the key, so you try to pick the lock. With a click, the lock opens, but then and it's instructing me to take a hazard card. And at this point I can change my party leader when it instructs me to take a type of card. So I'll change for my rogue, who will take on the falling slab, drops from the roof. Milo needs to roll a 7 or more to disarm the trap. Rolls a 10. After dealing with the falling slab trap, you go on searching it and find an amber pipe with silver fittings. Its value is 200 gold pieces. Finding nothing else, you leave the room. I'm going to leave both those treasures there. My party will then make its way along this passage to this room, checking for wandering monsters. That's a 2. Museum. This cluttered chamber looks like a museum packed with dusty exhibits. There are all kinds of things here, but your gaze is drawn to a crystal pillar. Sorry, that's out of focus. Several feet across. Through the pillar you can see some kind of creature, but you can't tell what it is until it moves out into the open. Then you see it's, as it's instructed me to take a monster card, I can take this opportunity to change my party leader. So I'll change for my dwarf, who will fight a troll which grins evilly as it attacks. Now, Sigurd needs an 11 or more to defeat the troll. He gets a 12. Once you have defeated the troll, you find that it was carrying a gold chalice. You're delighted. It must be worth 500 gold pieces. You grab it and hurry from the room. So now I've found 2 of the 500 gold piece treasures. I just have to find 1 more. So I'll take the chalice and I'll leave this 300 gold piece treasure behind. The party now travels to this room along the passageway. Checking for wandering monsters. No. Trophy room. This cluttered chamber is filled with banners, weapons and other trophies of old battles. The only thing of any value you can see is a ruby necklace of dazzling gems worth no less than 500 gold pieces. Praising your luck, you leave. So I have found 3 500 gold piece treasures. And that was my aim for this game. So now my heroes can exit the dungeon, knowing that they've got 3 500 gold piece treasures and 2 400 gold piece treasures. So they will try to make their way out and not get killed by any wandering monsters. So they'll take... What's the easiest way? Okay, we'll go to here. Check for wandering monsters. 5, okay. Go to this next red square. Check for monsters. 5. Come out of this room and go along the final passageway. 4. So no wandering monsters, and they managed to exit the dungeon. So this was just my slightly altered solo variant of the game. I've just made a few changes to it to try and make it a little bit more challenging, because it's quite an easy game, as it's just designed for families really. I find it really enjoyable to play when I just want a quick adventure game and nothing too demanding.